I guess we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rites of Passage. The original moderator, Tom Hart, couldn't be here, so I am taking over for him. My name is Rob Plow. I'm the programming director of SPX. Everyone is lovely showing. That's right. Hold up your books. Yay. And Tom's concept for this panel is that he believes that comics have this ability to uniquely depict what we call rites of passage in our lives, major events that we go through. And the format of this panel will be a little different than a lot of panels in that we're going to have everyone first read a selection from their book briefly, and then we're going to show a little presentation, and then we'll kind of chat about how you brought to bear the elements of rites of passage in your work. And we're going to start with Jessie Lee, and her first. I think it's being loaded right now.
The word came in different sections, so is there a certain section you want to start with?
Which story do you want to read first, Jessie Lee?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you put them together. Pick any one you want. Just move through them.
Surprise her.
Yeah, surprise me.
And you can, so you'll know what's there, and you can probably just read from your book, like in front of
Yeah,
you.
I think I can see it on the screen.
There we go. So Birthdays is the first story. And before you start, Jessie Lee, can you talk a little bit about what your book is and what it's about?
So my book is a memoir, mostly a childhood memoir, in 17 separate short pieces. And each piece is a pretty large soft pastel, so no panels, and with a little bit of text on it. And so that's why I'm going to go through, we'll read fast. But, and so Tom picked out 3 that he thought had to do with the different traumas I have, mostly circling, I think, in the 3 that he picked about my mother and the death of my mother and my, problems with my mother. This one's called Birthdays. I have a color slide.
Go, Jessie, go.
I have a color slide of me in France, in the hospital in France after I was born. Baby me does not look familiar at all. I do recognize my mother's gold Swiss watch. I am wearing it now. Without lifting my wrist to my ear, I can hear it ticking. When my mother was tested for Alzheimer's, the nurse asked her to write the hours on a clock. Her hours floated up as if time were drowning. She was wearing the watch when she died. The last sound she heard, its soft ticking. So that's one of the short pieces. This one, we were talking about it as comics. This one is, I think, one that really represents the fact that for me, some of my drawing is, by my standards, more or less realistic, although it's often pretty surreal. This one has the most distorted drawings, and I think it's because the more emotion, the more distortion in the art. Sisters. When we were born, we were the same size, weren't we? Then Mother needed one of us to grow, to help her reach things. You got tall, sister, and me small. Mother got sicker, the drinking, the falling. You got bigger. You grew enormous, taking care of her. There was not enough room for all that caring in the world. Not enough room for her, except under the ground. At the funeral, I reached for your hand. But your skin was as thin as a balloon's, swollen with grief. I couldn't hold on to you. As I watched, you melted away. Sister, are you there? Are you listening? If you are, can I hold you again? That's just the cover that's on the front of that file, I think. This was Wolf, and this is an example of how I think in memoir, I actually have an all-word memoir, like no pictures, called Space, and that I was just about growing up during the moon launches. I strive to be absolutely accurate about things, like I was a reporter, and I'm going to get really hit if they're not. And in graphic work, it just sort of frees you. So this is my take on my family via, as you'll see, a famous fairy tale, Wolf. When I was a girl, my mother told me as she was dying, a wolf always followed me to my grandmother's house to protect me. She was dying from too many cigarettes. She was dying from too much bourbon. That's Little Red Riding Hood, Mom, I said, and the wolf is the villain. God damn it, she said, this is my life, not a fairy tale. That wolf was there to protect me. From wild boars, from bad men like my father, from bad women like my grandmother, who was just like him. My father's prized possession was a blue ribbon bull. I think he knew if anything happened to me, the wolf would do something just as bad to that bull. When I was at my grandmother's house, I drew pictures of a wolf big enough to tear her heart out, if she'd had a heart. I knew the wolf would do anything to protect me. When I got appendicitis and my grandmother locked me in the house, it was the wolf who broke down the door and saved me, she said. You always told me it was your mother, I said. Yes, she said. It was my mother protecting me, and all your life I have tried to do the same. Thanks.
Jesse Lee. Let's do Jules next. You can actually go up there too if you want. Borrow the
I'll
mic.
probably just take the.
Use that one at the end.
Just keep using that work. Yeah, might as well, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
easier to see.
Yeah.
So before you start, Jules, can you talk about your book a little bit?
Yeah, Sea Legs is a collaboration with me and one of my oldest friends, Nikki Smith, who is the illustrator. This is a fictionalized memoir about a girl growing up on a boat and everything that entails, good and bad. This is a segment that takes place, the main character, Janie, encounters a lot of loneliness while she is on her trip with her parents in the Caribbean on a boat that her dad built. Eventually, she does make a friend, another boat kid, who is living on a different boat in one of the harbors that they stop in. And it turns out this friend is actually a little bit of a challenging one to navigate. So this is a scene where the friend, whose name is Astrid, has decided she found something interesting for them both to do for the day. Interesting is relative. Wow, I kind of thought it was going to be bigger. It's all underground. Look, this is just like the outlook tower on top of everything. Plus the view up here is a whole panorama. Come here though, this is what you really got to see. Come on. What? No! Oh, whoa. Now you see, a lot of history up in here. Whoa. Ta-da, come down, check it out. I'm fine. Jeannie, down. I can see just fine. I thought you were so brave all of a sudden. So you're scared now? I'm not scared, I'm just, Can you help me? Ah! See, was that so bad? No? That's really in there, by the way. How deep does it go? Couple stories, I guess. A couple stories? Yeah, I already told you. The fort's actually pretty big. You just can't see much of it above ground. You think anyone ever goes down there? People do sometimes, yeah. Hey, wait! Wait, where are you? What are you doing? Just getting out. I'm done in there. Okay, it's just, I can't though. What, you can't? Oh no. Could you help me? What am I supposed to do? Pick you up and carry you? Just take the other way out. The other? I'll meet you at the exit. There's a tunnel at the bottom that leads outside. What? No, what? No, Astrid, no, stop. Don't worry. You're like really, really brave, so it's fine. Astrid, come on, Astrid, please. Astrid. Don't just leave me. What? The flip. I'm not going to do sobs, but you can see them. All right. Is there a Carl quote for this? On that pale blue dot is everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, even your mean flippin' friends who trick you into a big haunted hole you can't climb out of because, and then they just totally leave you there. Okay, right, yes. Thank you, Carl. I had to go down. Okay. Flip. Crap. God.
That was an excellent Carl Sagan impression. It really was. Thank you, Jules. Štěpánka, why don't you go next if you want to kind of do the same thing.
Sure. So let me just introduce the book by saying it's a memoir, and it's a book that's trying to answer the very burning question why we so often find ourselves in the exact copies of romantic relationships that we've already had. And it asks if love is a skill or if the issue is about finding the right object to love. I think I'm gonna stay here.
That's fine.
Also, I think maybe my excerpt is a bit too long, so stop me if it's too long.
That's fine. It's whatever Tom put up is fine.
Okay, so we can blame Tom. Good.
Yes.
This is a love story. I am the main character of the book, but my story is woven into other people's lives. Their stories don't belong to me, but without them, I can't tell mine. Maybe you know me, or maybe by the end of the book, you'll feel that way. But life doesn't make narrative sense. I look at it this way. What happened is more important than who it happened to. This is a love breakup story. During adolescence, I collected a wide range of unattainable love interests. They were unattainable in all kinds of ways. Welcome to today's tour. Please don't touch the exhibits and don't take anything with you. Our first exhibit is a guy who fell for every girl I introduced him to and then cried on my shoulder when no one wanted him. And intellectual par excellence, incomprehensible and emotionally distant, just like his favorite movies. Love at first sight. This relationship peaked during the year and a half when I was chasing after him. This was so horrible that I even contemplated mending my ways. I guess I was more in love with her sketchbooks than with her. We've all been there, right? He lived on the other side of the world. Perfect. I fell in love with his detachment and then was disappointed when he got too clingy. I used to see this girl once a week at a lecture. We lived through all the stages of a relationship, but only in my head. Now we're in the teachers and cheaters section, which wasn't supposed to be open at all. This must have been put here by a mistake. Wow, how did it get so late? Gallery's closing. All visitors please head to the exit immediately. Our place always seemed ridiculously tiny to me. Too small for so many things, people and yelling, followed by a deafening silence. Very early I came to the conclusion that the best thing for the whole family would be for me to occupy as little space as possible. Being self-sufficient was the only way to keep things from falling apart. If I added my own problems, our fragile unit wouldn't have handled it. There was no room for me, but when it came to books, books gave me space. Their worlds seem infinite. What's that? Books seem to offer, well, read it, answers, okay, to everything. Every girl's guide to healthcare, sex education book. This is so boring. Not every book included my interests. Bloodshed, swords, dragons. I read magazines to learn more. I'll spare you reading all the titles. I'll just pick my favorite, so you can get an idea how it looked like in 2000s in Czech Republic. Bedroom tips. If you surprise your boyfriend with sexy lingerie, he'll think about how many guys have already seen you wear it. The best thing is to leave the shopping bag in the bedroom. Extra tip. Leave the price tag on so he can see that it's just for him. The covers were full of girls who didn't look like me, dealing with problems I had never imagined until then. Okay, so this one is more for you to look at than for me to read it to you. I chose these infographics to portray how each and every relationship I got myself into had the same structure. So first you can follow the line, the arrow when, the girl likes the boy, he likes her back, she loses interest very quickly. On the other hand, on the right, you can follow the arrow when the boy rejects her and the girl falls in love even more. And we continue on the next page, when the girl finds out everything the boys like and then starts talking about it very loudly every time he's around, and coincidentally she is always around. That works. Not that I would want to give you tips how to stalk people, but it usually worked. They get together, but at the moment the boy reciprocates the feelings, she loses interest, and we do the same cycle all over again. The guilt over a breakup eventually faded, but the relief of being single never lasted long. I needed someone to desire. With infatuation came mania, and with mania, obsession. And with obsession, frustration. When in love, I was always hungry for more. When in a relationship, I was suffocating, and I couldn't decide which was worse. My love life began to be governed by one simple rule: the more unattainable, the better. Do I always turn them into such bores? Why does it always end this way? What, that one? That's so over. He texted me like 10 times a day. Such a stalker. I'd love to fall in love, but it's so hard to find someone interesting. Relationships are obsolete anyway, and I tried to act like I didn't care.
Nice.
Thank you. Jonathan, you want to
Sure.
go down there
Yeah.
and tell us who you are and what you're doing here?
Hi, I'm Jonathan Baylis. For 20 years, I've been doing a mini comic autobio series called Sew Buttons. It's called Sew Buttons because every story starts with sew. So I went here, so I met this guy, so I did this thing. Every story, except for this one. It's called Take a Penny. That's going to be a few stories. Take a penny, leave a penny. Wednesday, June 16th, 2024. So, what summer camps are we going to take Lucas to? Help me! Help! She's not breathing! Oh my God, you were walking outside. No, I'm going to call 911. It's not working. Slap on the baby. It's not working. ABC, CPR. ABC, CPR. Airway. Finger in there. Blackberry. Wow! Oh my God. It's one day. The next day, Thursday, June 27th, 11 a.m. You could fight the cancer if you want. I'm here for you, whatever decision you make, Mom. I'm feeling confused. Thursday, June 27th, 3 p.m. Emergency room. Thursday, June 27th, 7 p.m. It was a massive stroke. She's on a breathing tube right now, but otherwise she should be awake right now, and she isn't. We can take the tube. No, let's wait till the morning to take the tube out and see if anything changes. I don't expect it to. I'm sorry. May 1977, August 1980, good day, sunshine. November 2008, I'm making a brisket. Want to know a secret? Sunday, June 30th, 10:03 a.m., leave a penny. Regina Lynn Baylis, April 6, 1949 to June 30th, 2024. So, I can see the forest for the Bronx. So one of my first memories is leaving the Bronx. I was 4 years old. Before I got into the car, I remember holding something in each hand. One hand, it was my mother. In the other, copy of Famous Monsters of Filmland. Its creator, Forrest J. Ackerman, died today. Thanks, Forey, for the memories. So, I like The Walrus by Baylis and Kercheval. So, I grew up listening to my mom's stereo. She had one of those turntables that could stack and drop when the side was finished. And every Sunday was Beatles Day. Good day, sunshine. I used to love opening up their album covers. It was like a book with a bonus of music. Sgt. Pepper's Cutout Stash. This is not a cutout stash. I can't remember why I was in my parents' bedroom Tuesday morning, December 9th, 1980. But I'll never forget something I said that cold day. When my dad told me, John Lennon's dead. That's okay, Daddy, I like Paul. It still haunts me that I said it, even though I was so young. The ending. so brisk. So I have to admit, as an adult, it's pretty hard for me to take advice from my mom. She's a great home cook, and everything she makes is delicious. But it's not like she's a gourmet chef with special sauces and artistic presentations utilizing molecular gastronomy. But that's really because she cooked for the pickiest eaters on the planet. Me. I only ate bagels, smoked turkey, and hot dogs. My dad still eats burgers, Oreos, and well-done pizza slices that get cut down the middle. My brother only ate bologna, grape jelly omelets, and chicken McNuggets. Can you believe they closed a McDonald's next door, bro?
It's
Can't believe
so
it.
weird.
But I eventually evolved and expanded my palate. And I even wanted to learn how to cook. And one Thanksgiving, so gobble gobble, pardon me, I wanted to cook a brisket. And I wanted to slow cook it overnight. I'm making a brisket. Want to know the secret? Of course. A packet of onion soup mix. What? Shove it in a bag, throw a packet of onion soup mix on top. Now the snob in me said, a 99-cent packet of dried crap is the secret? I don't believe it. So I went to my special butcher to pick up the meat. You're an expert. Any tips? My mom's the expert, really. You should talk to her. Of course. Hey, Ma! You really want to know the secret? Yes. Come here. You take a packet of onion soup mix. Wow. Sometimes moms are just right. That brisket was delicious. Mom, do you have any advice on? Criminals are a superstitious, cowardly lot. Good heavens, Jonathan. I want you to clean this room. So buttons on your underwear. Go clean your room. That's my mom. You want to just go back to that one photo? So I don't know if you could tell there, and certainly it's a photo that I should have seen when I was younger, but I found out right before she passed that she was 100% adopted, didn't know it, and was half Japanese. Now you look at that picture, you go, oh, she looks half Japanese. I never knew, no one ever knew, but she left me a whole other book to write. And thus is born this weird figure of comics. Hey you, get down from there! That's it.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, so we can, perfect. Whoops. Let's see here. So Tom made this, unhinged, beautiful, Minecraft-inspired thing. So we're gonna go through, and basically this talks about, it's gonna show excerpts from everyone and what specific elements are related to rites of passage. So, buckle up. And here are our players, Jules, Štěpánka, Jonathan, and Jesse Lee. And please note, adult themes and pictures, which you may have guessed from what we just saw. How to play it, 3 steps. Live a challenging experience. Notice your place in the common story. Document the story, integrate into self. And this is kind of the gist of what Tom's talking about here, is that the documentation of the narrative is in itself an important part of the rite of passage itself. So let's see here. So buttons, the mom section by Jonathan Baylis and artists. So baking the brisket. This is making a family dish, common rite of passage. About John Lawson, of adored celebrity. Loss of a parent as a rite of passage moment. And French Girl, Jesse Lee. Cross into the forest, this kind of meaningful moment. Childhood illness. Illness and I can't quite see the bottom part.
Yeah.
Yeah. parents' illness, siblings, birth and death. And now Heartcore by Štěpánka Jislová. First sex book, another rite of passage. Communicating desire. First kiss. Leaving home for college. Or for the city, rather. Thank you. Success! I love that page. First art opening, and especially for the people at this table, a lot of people in this room, it is a major moment. Drug trip. Early trauma, which is a significant chapter in the book I'll get to. And finding language for your experience. What an excellent observation by Tom, because it's a big part of what making art is. And now we have Sea Legs, Jules Bakes, and Nikki Smith. Beginning of a new journey. First confirming communication. This is when she first learns of her friend. A first primal scream. Yeah.
Not the last.
Diving into the other zones?
Other zones.
Other zones, yes. I remember when reading Jules' script and looking at this moment as like, it's the key moment to everything. And it's a rare middle grade book that explores existentialist ideas in quite the way that she did it. First, here it is, first confrontation with the abyss. It's an incredible page. Discovering the magic of nature. These are flying fish. And I love this because Janie says, wait, they're real? First sneaking into forbidden territory. Her friend was kind of a bad girl, literally, pushing her to do things. Breaking the adult rules. Discovering that some adults are bad. Deeper into the darkness. This is what we saw earlier. And then leveling up. There's a panel that's happening later called The Only Way Out is Through, and it's kind of about this topic, that sometimes that's the only way to deal with something, that you just have to go through. And when you come through, and if you come through a rite of passage, you emerge different. And then connected to that with leveling up, becoming competent. And then shared language. And then, as Tom said, and this is the key, after going through the experience, sharing and crafting the story. And there's a photo of Jules and Nikki making their sign there for part of the story. They make up an organization called the International Flying Fish Society. Is that correct? Yep. And this is that's their special hand signal. And that was Tom's presentation. How are we doing on time? We're doing good. Tom's a smart fellow. He's putting us all together. So I'm going to ask, I guess I'll start with Jules. You were the first person I thought of for this panel when Tom suggested it, because this book, you may as well call it Rites of Passage for everything in it. How long had you been thinking of turning this into a narrative after growing up, as a boat person?
I mean, if you have an unusual childhood, you navigate many, many years of adults around you being like, someday you're going to write a book about this. And I'm like, oh, am I?
Do I have to?
And then I did. Really, the catalyst for this was that Nikki and her wife went to France, and instead of a hotel, they stayed on a boat. And Nikki's written a lot of really beautiful middle grade books already, so she was looking at putting together her next book, and she was so enamored with this experience on the boat, and she was like, next one has to be on a boat. And she knew me. We go way back. We met online when we were like 12. And she asked if I would be her consultant, basically. She was like, I know you did this, and maybe you can answer a lot of my questions. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, anything. And then the more we talked and the more of my own anecdotes we got into, eventually she was just like, do you want to write this? I was like, I guess. And it ended up being one of the, big formative experiences of my life. So.
And Štěpánka, I kind of wanted to ask you something similar. You, even at the beginning of the book, say, this is my story. It's also kind of a made-up story in a way, and that it's from my point of view and it involves others. The thing I'm curious about, there's something important you say in the book at the end, that who I was when I started it is different than who I was in the middle and who I am now. How much of telling that story was part of your transformation? And then and how much different did it feel? Like, did you feel the narrative itself changing as you were writing it?
Oh yeah, there's quite an interesting things that happen. First one is when you're exploring something that happened to you via comics, which means storyboarding, sketching, inking, coloring, lettering, then it's kind of like saying your name 100 times. Like by the 80th time, you don't know who you are. But also, and again, that's kind of creepy, some of my memories are just scenes from this book. I really think I lost some of my memories by putting them on the page. That being said, I get often asked if it was if it felt like therapy. I think I get asked this because people are looking for something that has results like therapy, but is not therapy. So I just want to emphasize, going to therapy is much easier than writing this book.
I often say to my students who are like, and a lot of people do comics about trauma, that making art is therapeutic, but that is not the same thing as therapy. It's like a whole different thing. It's like, this is a good thing to do, this is a good practice, it's helpful, but then you should actually have a professional.
Yes, very true, very true.
Jonathan, with your work, one of the things I'm always struck by, and for anyone who doesn't know, so Jonathan works with different artists on different stories, and in many ways, I see him as kind of like the natural successor to Harvey Pekar, and what he did as a memoir cartoonist, and particularly because most of Harvey's stories were short anecdotes, and he was the master of turning a seemingly trivial moment into a really interesting narrative. And how do you do that as a writer, like turning something small into something narrative and meaningful?
Geez. Well, I mean, with this particular story, or with Take a Penny, Leave a Penny, it's the biggest story, right? And the challenge was, how do I take the biggest story and make it 2 pages, right? Like, it was, usually I'm done writing by June, and artists are drawing July and printing in August. And my mom died June 30th, and I was like, this has got to get into the issue. Like, it's just like I have to do it. But the smaller moments, it's this. It's a little bit of alchemy, right? Like, usually when I go to SPX, I'm buying lots of comics and mini comics, and I'll see a panel that someone drew, and that panel ignites something in my brain that goes, I got a story for that artist. Like in my current issue, I saw, I don't know if I'm gonna get the pronunciation right, but Banu Pratap or Banu Pratap.
Yeah.
And he does this really cool thing with his fingers and his caricatures of faces, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna write my David Lynch story for this guy, because there's something surreal about his art, and I was like, so I just do it. There's not a lot of super planning with how I come up with all these stories. And Rob's right. I mean, I've worked with 70 artists at this point, over 70 artists.
Yeah, it's like a who's who over the years
of the indie small press folks, because I love them. But the new issue, you'll see when you read it. I want to say the only thing that's slightly different, because sometimes the stories don't always speak to each other.
Yeah.
I think everything in either visuals or themes speaks to each other in this issue, which is like a good transition for doing a longer graphic memoir next year or something.
Well, and it's interesting that, for those who know Harvey P. Carr, he worked with artists, but he storyboarded all of his own work in stick figures.
Yeah, terrible.
So he
terrible stick figure.
And so he had a real visual sense of what he wanted every time. So it's interesting that you're similar in that you're you're set off visually.
100%.
Oh, I can connect that to this.
Yeah,
to this.
100%.
It's interesting as well. And Jesse Lee came to comics very recently after a long career as a professor and poet, writer, translator, and many other things. And you had actually written a separate written memoir. What was the experience like of writing that versus doing French Girl, which is telling particular stories in a fragmented way? And some of the stories have, we saw with Wolf, but there are other stories that are they have, there's fabulous fictional content in there with magical clocks and things like this. And it's obviously narratively fictional, but it feels emotionally real. So I'm wondering about that process for you.
Yeah, so I was talking about writing Space, which was my all-word memoir, which was published in 1998, I think, quite a long time ago. And it's about from when I was 10 years old, when I moved to Florida and near Cape Kennedy, and saw the moon launches and the falling apart of my family. So it covers some of what seems like the same territory. And when I first started drawing, and I got to take the class with my amazing colleague Linda Berry. She sort of magicked me into her semester class disguised as an undergraduate. And I thought, well, what I was working on in her class were panel versions of that. And I found it impossible. It's like I would just draw some pretty lame illustration of some cut down, too-wordy version of something that happened in the book. I just wasn't happy at all. I thought it would be a good project because that book won an award called the Alex Award, which is an award given by the American Library Association for an adult book suitable for young adults. So libraries buy it in volume, and it signed it for summer reading for about 14-year-olds. So I'm always having 14-year-olds come up and realize who I am, tell me they love the book, and then be shocked that I'm so old. Although the book is set during the moon race, guys. But I just couldn't do it. And so this time I started drawing for the first time in my life during the pandemic, and I was doing these soft pastels. And I realized the only way I could really get into a story was to draw first, because to me the word part of my brain is too overdeveloped. And I thought, well, I don't know if I have anything more to say about my childhood, but the drawing set me free. It let me access parts of the story that I hadn't written about before. Because weirdly enough, once you write it, you were talking about that, so if you write something and then the written version erases, there's something in space where I'm up on the top of my house when a moon rocket takes off, and it's like the sun coming up. You can see the colors and the birds sing. And when I first wrote that, I had a whole lot of inchoate feelings about it. And now when I think of it, I think of exactly what's in that chapter, just that many words. But the drawing let me access more parts of my memory, more emotions, to be less realistic. And it's just really quite a different experience, and actually a more joyful experience, because my memory of writing in space was that I wrote it hunched over holding my stomach. So either my past has gotten less painful to me as I've grown up, or drawing let me get into it in a way that, was less conscious. So I actually just would start drawing and not really know what the story was going to be until I got, usually, I don't know, like half the way in, and I would sort of start storyboarding out what I wanted to draw for the rest of it. I think that's the answer to the question, but I can't remember the question now.
Well, you actually did, because I said I was curious about the difference between writing a written memoir and do you find, and this a question for all of you, I guess, is, Jules, you're a writer, Jonathan, you're a writer, none of you actually draw, and Jesse Lee just got into it, but Jonathan just said he thinks visually, and when you're writing, and you're writing from memory, do you find that you're driven by like image, like snapshots in your brain, as opposed to like, Jesse Lee said that like doing drawings unlocked something that they couldn't access before. Do you find that's true of yourself as well? Like, what about you, Jules?
I think it depends on the scene. I think that I find some scenes very visually centered, and others really, for me, the process of writing a graphic novel was very much like playwriting. It was like I knew Nikki was going to be essentially it was like setting the dialogue, setting stage direction, and then putting it into a director's hands to let their vision take over. I guess that's not really the question you're asking.
Well, like for example, the blue hole, that's something that clearly had been burned in your brain.
Yeah.
How did it feel like to see them on the page for the first time?
So it's weird, because that's actually the second time. The first time Nikki and I collaborated was in college, and she took a short story I wrote called Blue Hole and turned it into a comic. It was a very different kind of story. But I think that scene had a lot more to do with feeling than it did about visuals, because the real blue hole is not very big; it's just very deep. And the huge page where Jamie is kind of floating over the blue hole for the first time, that's not strictly what it would have looked like, but it is definitely what it felt like.
It's the emotional narrative versus the actual
Absolutely.
narrative. And Štěpánka, that seems really true in your work as well, where a lot of your work is it's naturalistic until it isn't, until you like break the rules, but it all makes sense. And when you were for each segment, were you thinking more visually? Did you work from memory? Did you work from like journals or diaries or things like that?
I did. I have like tons of diaries, tons of sketchbooks, but I guess in my head I don't really divide it to drawing and writing, even though these two processes happen, at once. I always see it as a pile of information, and I come to this pile of information and try to find a way how to convey them the best. So maybe I don't need to always use the strict grid of squares.
Right.
I can go maybe more towards infographics or more towards illustration, and maybe try to find some kind of a concept. And looking back, I think that's what I like about comics, that I can take a pile of something messy and just neatly find little boxes for it. And yeah, I am diagnosed.
The art gallery one, it was such an effective and funny series of pages, and I like the concept of it. It's sort of like, it's like your memory palace, and like ways you're exploring that.
Yeah, and also, so to me, drawing comes more from like emotional side of things, and writing is more rational, more definitive.
Interesting.
So if I'm trying to relay emotions it's better to draw it first, but words are easier to make structure out of. But in the end, I'm always trying to find a concept first. For example, the pages with the infographics, when I'm showing the repeated cycle of failed relationship. Maybe you had the same thing here as we did in Czech Republic. In all those magazines for women, you could always take a test. The test was like, what kind of tree you are.
Right. Cosmo test.
Exactly, a Cosmo test. So like a paper BuzzFeed, I guess. So it felt appropriate to use their structure for this type of information.
Jonathan, when you're writing and you have an artist in mind, does it change the way you write? Because your voice is very,
New York
consistent, among other things. Yes. And it's like you can see the subtle differences.
Yeah, I think it's my voice that enables you to read the whole book and not feel like you're being jerked around the whole time, because every book has like 6 or 7 stories in it, every mini comic. But how we're talking about how I visually use these people. I use these artists, right, Miss? I just used you. I try to possess them. I don't think in terms of my images. Like if I'm, like the always easy one, the example that I use is I was doing a bunch of birthday strips, just testing that I could just do one-pagers, tell a full thing in one page. And so I share the birthday with Johnny Rotten, and I go, well, who's going to draw that story? Josh Bayer. Like you want a punk guy, you got to get a punk artist. And so I think, how would I draw this like, Josh Bayer as I'm writing the descriptions? The voice is mine, but the descriptions, I'm trying to possess the artist in a way and think how they would do it. And a lot of times I'm just wrong anyway, which is totally fine, because I want them to do it their way. Like I'm sure when like another way is like, oh, how do I choose my artist, right? So I'm like looking at Miss Lasko Gross, and Miss is a mom, and I was like, oh, I want to do this birth story of my kid. I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to work with a mom or parents, and your husband also is a mom, mother father team did that story, and I'm sure I wrote it like I write everything, which is pretty much like six panels. And I try to think how they would do it, but then a lot of times they'll divide it up into 10 panels, or they'll divide it up into, like the origin story was just supposed to be one image of dialogue balloons, and Yoko Nito's they separated it into whatever, three panels and a back page that continued thing. So yeah,
that's good. So we got about another minute left, and I'm going to ask Jessie Lee to briefly say, since you started, how has the way you write changed since you became a cartoonist?
It's a really excellent question, and I'm not sure I really know the answer to it, except it's made me conscious, again, this affects my poetry more than prose. I write nonfiction essays and fiction, but you have to be I have to be, in the format that I do in my comics, so sparing with my words, that I think my poetry, which is really not like this, you've often accused me of these being like poetry, and I'd say my poetry makes less sense, but my poems often look like, I think, like a kind of fat guy slumped in a chair, kind of on the page. And I think that the poems I've been writing since I did Fridge Girl have been very, very spare, because I was counting each word and paring away. Now maybe I'll go screaming back the other direction and write big fat prose poems, but it made me very aware of the weight of each word on the page again.
What an excellent answer. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for coming to the panel, and that was fantastic.